Hi, and welcome back to week 6 in our Parenting Today lecture series. This will be the last lecture in our entire class, so it's been wonderful being here with you. And as always, if you have any questions about anything related to our course, you need help brainstorming or with one of your written assignments, please feel free to reach out to me. I want everyone to be successful in the course, and I want you to feel as if you can reach out to me with questions or concerns related to the class. So continuing our conversation in regard to divorced parents, we're going to focus now on the work and research of Mavis Hetherington, who conducted longitudinal studies of intact, divorced, and remarried families. So there's four important considerations here in regard to Mavis Hetherington's work. We want to remember that divorce is not a single event. It unfolds over time and it has a long-term impact on children and families. That marital transitions impact the entire family system. And number 3, that social support systems influence how families respond to divorce. Number 4, children and parents respond in many different ways to marital transitions. So what does divorce change? Changes a myriad of things for families. The first thing being a home. Second, finances. Also changes things that are intangible, such as moods, behaviors, responsibilities, and stress level. So getting over divorce. Statistically, we hypothesize that it takes 2 years to get used to marital transition, and 2 factors impact adjustment. The first one is maintaining a positive, authoritative parenting style, and the second is parents working together cooperatively, putting anger aside and really focusing on co-parenting children together. Anger between parents predicts mood and behavior problems in children. In terms of getting over a divorce, parental interaction styles after divorce, 25% report effective co-parenting, and 50% report what's termed as parallel parenting. So that's when parents avoid each other and there's 2 different sets of rules and expectations for children. 25% fall in the category that we term ongoing conflict between parents. So children tend to get really caught in the middle, leads in increased anger, depression, anxiety, and hopelessness. So leads for negative outcomes for children as well as parents. Children's reactions to divorce really, the response varies by child. The common reactions include sadness, the fear of losing both parents, depression, anger acting out, confusion, although it's interesting and important to note that 10% of children report relief. When mother is the primary caregiver, there are gender and age differences. Young boys may act out against mothers. Young girls may become closer to mothers. Some adolescents already experience identity issues that may lead to socio-emotional problems and are intensified by divorce. Some adolescents become caring and responsive, but may have anxieties about being competent. And oftentimes these anxieties are not verbalized, but can be witnessed in behavioral ways. Adolescents of neglectful and disengaged or authoritarian parents tend to have poor outcomes. Children may resist mother's authority and need support from another adult. So still continuing our discussion in terms of parents' reaction to divorce. Divorce research based on studies done when women usually got custody of the children. So that's really important to note. Also, I want to continue to emphasize here that we are looking at research here, but we also want to look at individual factors and always take into consideration the individual families' needs that we have in front of us here. Not generalizing. Really important thing to do when we're reading any type of research. Mothers tend to have less income after the divorce, which can lead to greater stress and also a change in parenting. So mothers undergoing divorce or being divorced tend to be more permissive with pre-adolescents and more authoritarian with adolescents. Custodial fathers are more comfortable setting limits, learn to be understanding of emotional needs, tend to be more permissive with adolescents, which means not enforcing behavioral limits. Non-custodial fathers tend to have less time to be close to children, either tending to become more permissive or disengaged, and there's a more recreational companion feel to the relationship rather than disciplinarian. There are certain risk and protective factors that are present and related to divorce. Child's characteristics need to be looked at. So infants, toddlers, and late adolescents are less affected by divorce than other age groups. Boys tend to have more trouble dealing with divorce. Girls tend to have more trouble dealing with remarriage. Intelligence tends to be a protective factor. Temperament can also be a risk or a protective factor, depending on temperament. It can elicit anger. So, parents can become a target for anger, as a scapegoat for those angry type of feelings. Family social support can be a protective factor or a risk factor if there is little or no social family support present. Conflict between parents can lead to behavioral as well as emotional problems. It can also lead to conflicted sibling relationships. So authoritative parenting, it can be more highly structured, lead to better organization, and we do know that parents can be a great resource for families that are experiencing or undergoing divorce. Other risks and protective factors include external social support. So at school, teachers, peers, and being high achievers in school can be protective factors that can result in increased self-esteem and an increased sense of confidence. So it's important, what other risk and protective factors, if we were together in a lecture hall, I'd really want to hear from you guys in terms of a conversation. What do you think that are important risk and protective factors? In terms of the long-term impact of divorce, 75% of children do well 6 years following divorce. 25% have poor self-control in terms of aggression and impulsivity. Also in terms of mood, anxiety, depression tend to increase in 25% of children of divorce. There is an increased risk for cognitive and social problems, wide variation here. Children of divorce tend to have problems before the divorce as well. So we can look at the actual conflict in the marriage as causing the problems. It's not always the divorce itself, it's the tension in the home that the children experienced anyway. So it's not always just the divorce that's causing the problems, although it can cause them to become exacerbated due to all the transitions and the change. So as adults, children of divorce are 2 times greater risk for behavior and emotional problems. So parenting adults, we do want to remember that the parental relationship is always important. It's the main takeaway from this particular slide here. So what should parents do? Parents must provide emotional support. So communicating to the children about why a change is necessary, trying to reduce suffering in any way that we can that's age appropriate, behaviorally appropriate, assuring the child that their needs will be met, offering repeated assurances that the child is not to blame, and also assuring the child that the parent is okay. Children really worry, and oftentimes this worry is not verbalized. So it's important to find verbal and nonverbal ways to assure the child that the parent is okay during the divorce and also after the divorce process as well. So what parents should not do during a divorce is to speak negatively about the other parent. It really becomes that child's burden. So, if in the case of biological parents, by criticizing or speaking negatively about the other parent, you're really speaking negatively about the child or him or herself, 50% of that child's DNA. And even in cases, foster care or adoptive parent, still that child has internalized a great deal of that other parent. So it's not something that you want to be doing, criticizing the other parent. We don't want to blame the other parent for the breakup or ever ask children to take sides. Children want to be loyal to both parents. In terms of step families, parents often have unrealistic expectations about how quickly a new family will come together. It really takes a lot of time, energy, and work to be able to merge a step family successfully. Needing to use open communication skills as well as conflict resolution skills to deal with the inevitable crises that can emerge as we blend families. Research tells us it's also important to use authoritative parenting skills as well as model positive relationships with members of the extended family. Children's reactions to marriage statistics, research tells us that girls have a harder time than boys blending, readjusting to a step family, and also have initial difficulties in cognition and social interactions. These difficulties do tend to improve over time, but are really dependent upon parenting styles. I'm going to switch focus a little bit and talk about military families, which is a subject very near and dear to my heart. I come from a military family. My father was a 100% disabled Vietnam combat veteran who had 5 brain tumors over the course of his life as a direct result of being exposed to Agent Orange, which I know a lot of our current modern day troops, both in Iraq and Afghanistan, have toxic exposure as well related to burn pits, also have issues related to post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's something I'm really passionate about, and volunteering and working toward promoting work and research among military families. So I showed you, I have a video for you that actually Kathy M. found showing military families. So I encourage you to take a look at that underneath Leo in the PowerPoint. We know that military families face unique stressors, especially when one or both parents are deployed. So again, take a look at Leo in the PowerPoint slide at this particular video. Military families affects over 1.2 million children, and at any given time, over 700,000 children have a parent deployed to a war zone. So we do know that families do well when they find meaning in the sacrifices that they make for our country, and that spouses are self-reliant and have strong coping skills, and when there is an overall strong support system in place. So in terms of a deployment cycle, we know that there are 4 stages. The first stage being pre-deployment, preparing to leave, when the family anticipates and reacts because one parent is leaving. There's concern that builds up about the safety of the parent. The second stage is the actual deployment stage, and that's when a spouse takes on the burdens of being a single parent, needing to make contact with the family, when and where appropriate. Families adjust to absence. The spouse becomes highly competent, and children learn to contribute in an optimal situation. The third stage in the deployment cycle is reunion. It's often marked with happiness and high expectations. All families have changed. It's really a time of reacquaintance that can be marked with conflict. In terms of post-deployment, that is the 4th stage in the deployment cycle, which is marked with readjustment. Spouses may have trouble relinquishing roles. Service members may have problems readjusting due to field experiences such as post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, or other types of May injury. So they may minimize it. Sometimes these things can be minimized by society as well. And really educating families about the resources available and the importance of using them. So here's some great resources for military families that, again, you can actually click on if you go and look at this particular PowerPoint slide on week 6 in Leo. So I hope you have a wonderful week. And again, please feel free to reach out to me if you have questions or concerns related to our course.